County. This is at about 11:45. So things at this point around midnight. Apollo Beach, Ruskin, Waimama, Fishhawk, over towards Valrico, Brandon, Riverview. This is where the strongest winds are going to be moving in. This is where you could see these are general gusts of 75 to 95 miles an hour, but an isolated wind gust above 100 miles an hour is certainly possible with that center of circulation. We could see that center, that eye, pass somewhere over downtown Tampa or close by. The Hurricane Center forecast has it going offshore, so it could be coastal communities that are impacted. And then it's behind the eye that we start watching for coastal surges on the Gulf Coast. As the winds turn direction onshore, Bradenton down towards Sarasota, that's when the surge starts to move in. So this is a two-part storm. Ahead of the eye, it's the wind, rain, isolated tornadoes. Behind the eye, because of the west coast of Florida and the way we're oriented to the wind, the onshore flow begins, and then you start to worry about the surge. Here's the difference. Notice the gusts out ahead of the eye, 97 miles an hour. Behind the eye, they're more like 70. So the winds are a little bit lighter on the south side of the eye, so that should help things a little bit in limiting the amount of surge we'll see in the Bay Area. By Monday afternoon, we'll start to clear out. I think Tuesday is looking like a much better day, maybe a little breezy behind the storm. I think we'll see some sunshine, lower humidity too, and that should make it a whole lot easier to deal with. Here's what we're looking at in terms of effect on Hillsborough County. Notice the numbers going up as we go through time, so that by 10:30 this evening, we're gusting to near 90. Wind damage and coastal surge by far are going to be our biggest concern, especially if the center of circulation comes close to us. Look at those Pinellas County gusts. We're talking 90, 95 miles an hour possible all the way from St. Pete back up towards Palm Harbor, East Lake, 95 just before midnight. As we go through the day north of Tampa, here the winds arrive a little later. So by 8 o'clock, it's Pasco County that's seeing the strongest winds. Portions of Citrus County still just tropical storm force gusts. Those gusts in Citrus County coming up as we approach midnight, and then especially early Monday morning. Some of those gusts could be up to 100 miles an hour as well. Brooksville up towards Crystal River. Polk County, for you, it is not as much of a surge situation because you're inland. It's rain. It's those isolated tornadoes. It's the gusty winds. By 5 o'clock tonight, winds gusting to near 70, well into the 80s by 10 o'clock, and maybe near 90 after that. Sarasota and Manatee counties, it's the rain, maybe an isolated tornado, but for you, I think it's the surge and definitely the wind. The wind may be the biggest impact down in Sarasota and Manatee counties. You're right on the coast. You're closest to that storm center, so easily gusts into the triple digits in some spots, depending on the exact track of our center of circulation. And inland locations, Highlands, Hardee, DeSoto County. Also, look at these numbers. Arcadia back over towards Sebring, Lake Placid in the triple digits. The timing here, mid-morning. That's going to start here in the next couple of hours. It's 7 o'clock now. As we approach noon, your winds are really going to ramp up. By 6 o'clock Monday, things will improve. Wind damage, flash flooding, all big concerns for you there over towards portions of Hardee, DeSoto, and Sebring County. So that's the latest update here, the latest information that we've got on radar. I'm going to go back, take a look at some of these cells moving onshore. Jason and I are also tweeting some information and looking at the latest hourly updates now on the position of IRMA from the National Hurricane Center. In the next hour, guys, I think we're going to have at least confirmation of one landfall down in the Keys today.
All right, thank you, Greg. Right now, Pinellas County officials are closely monitoring the progress of IRMA from the Emergency Operations Center in downtown Clearwater.
The folks there are responding to any calls for help, as well as watching local road conditions very carefully. IRMA is forecast to hit Clearwater hard with winds possibly over 100 miles an hour. And of course, that strong storm surge that Greg has been talking about, that's what happened once the eye passes. And then you have to deal with the storm surge, which is, very dangerous.
Yes, conditions in southeast Florida, they're starting to deteriorate overnight. We've seen a lot of live images from there over the past, 3-4 hours here.
As Andrew Reese reports, they're already battling slick roads and also sporadic power outages.
It's coming down here in Boca Raton, and I could tell you that it's going to continue this way for quite some time. That's why people are warning about the dangerous road conditions. I want to show you some of them that we captured through our photographer Bob Leeds' camera. In this image, you could see one of the transformers blowing out. Everything turns dark. We also had to go over several obstacles because there are a lot of tree limbs in the area, whether it's palm fronds or limbs that are falling from these trees themselves. We also want to show you that these pockets of no power, it really depends. Like, we were driving through Meisner Park and one section had lights on, the other one did not. And that's what we're seeing throughout much of town. Here at the hotel that we just started to hunker down at, the power went out and then the generator kicked back on. So other people are not so lucky to have the power on. And if you can, make sure you're listening to 106.3. That's the best way to stay in contact with us, or if not, tune in on Facebook. I'm Andrew Ruiz for WPTV News Channel 5.
All right, thank you, Andrew. We are continuing our team coverage. We've got crews all over the area. We want to check right now on conditions in Sarasota.
And here's why. Officials are blocking off certain areas right now. Let's go to ABC Action News reporter Wendy Lane. Wendy, what have you seen and what is being blocked off at this hour?
Yeah, Dia, James, we keep seeing officials having to block off roads that are heading to basically the barrier islands. So that's kind of what's happening behind me. But I want to show you why. Why are police blocking these areas off? It's because you can't see it right now, but there are these gusts of winds that come up. And this is just the beginning of the storm. Check out, see these palm trees? See how high they are? Well, check out what this one dropped right here, this huge leaf. Now, if that falls on somebody, that's going to hurt. And look at all of these. And this is just the beginning of it. So we can probably be certain that there's going to be a lot more of those leaves coming down. And, you know, that's what safety officials are trying to prevent, is people getting hurt. That's why they're having to block off roads that are going to the barrier islands, that are going to probably see a lot of storm surge and get hit really hard by these winds that we're seeing right now, that are just these gusts that come through, and you know, they're not certainly strong yet. I can still hold my ground, but they're strong enough to knock off these huge leaves that we've been seeing all over town. We've been seeing just kind of tree debris all over the place. So this road right here is John Ringling Causeway. It heads to St. Armand's Circle out to Bird Key. That road is blocked off. Anyone who lives in that area can talk to these deputies and get through. But anyone, we just saw a little bit ago, some people came by, the deputies checked with them, they turned around and left. Because if you don't live there, if you don't have a good reason to go over there, they're going to send you away, because it will be dangerous over there, if not is already, with these winds and that storm surge that's going to be coming. Right now, we're still getting a good rain. It's been raining kind of off and on, but now we're getting some big drops coming down. And again, those gusty winds, we've been out here all morning. They continue to just get stronger and stronger, and fewer time between each of those gusts. So that's why people need to just be so careful during the storm, even before the storm, like right now. In Sarasota, Wendy Lane, ABC Action News.
Live from the station taking action for you, this is ABC Action News.
7:03 right now. You are watching extended coverage of ABC Action News as we prepare you for Hurricane Irma's approach.
That's right. On the left of your screen, we are tracking everything Irma. We are looking live, taking live pictures at Miami in the middle of your screen, and on the right of your screen, Fort Lauderdale, where conditions continue to deteriorate and worsen in these overnight hours. We are joined, of course, by Greg D. in our weather center, also meteorologist Jason Adams, as you guys are working back and forth here. If one person's on there, the other person is building graphics, digesting information.
We also want to tell you, you're waking up to this push alert right here on your phones. We've been keeping you updated constantly from our ABC Action News mobile app. Our last one just after 5 this morning, when Greg got the latest update that alerted you that Irma was about to move across the Keys. It was still on track to hit the Tampa Bay area. Good
Again,
morning,
we
and
start
thank you
another
for
hour.
joining us on this special edition of ABC Action News.
Yep, we begin another hour. I'm James Tully.
I'm Dee O'Reilly, Greg D,
And
Lindsay Logue.
Lindsay Logue, traffic anchor Lindsay Logue is with us as well, watching outside. You know, we already have the Sunshine Skyway closed.
Keeping an eye on all of the roads. I've got more than 200 traffic cameras throughout the Bay Area, almost all the way into Lakeland, through Wesley Chapel, on down to Sarasota. Watching that, and yes, the Skyway is closed and will remain closed until IRMA passes.
And we've been talking about if you're going to make any last minute preps, if you're going to decide to go to a shelter, your time is really running out. We're talking like just a few hours.
Yeah, and that's really what we're focusing on this morning is the little amount of time now that's left. I think midday, the rain's going to become steady. So this is what we've been doing. Jason and I have been working to localize these planners for you so you can see what the wind is going to do in your town over the next several hours. So these are sustained wind speeds in Tampa. Notice after 4 o'clock, they really go up, maybe to near 70 miles an hour by 8 o'clock. So we're almost going to be talking about hurricane conditions in Tampa as far as the afternoon. But we're not done. Lakeland, come to your screen. Here's your wind forecast, jumping up to maybe 70, 76 miles an hour later on this afternoon and evening. Very strong wind gusts there. How about Arcadia? Look at this. We're talking serious hurricane conditions here possible as the winds ramp up from 74 to 100 miles, 100 and so miles per hour briefly at 6 p.m. And then the winds start to fall back as that center of circulation moves by. So in Arcadia, really, you've got to be in place. Don't leave where you are through noon. At afternoon, conditions will deteriorate very quickly across portions of Highlands and DeSoto counties. In St. Pete, same deal. Your wind forecast as we go through the day today, those winds shooting right up there to sustained winds, possibly by 8 o'clock this evening, approaching hurricane speed. That is 87 miles an hour as we watch those winds increase as what could be then a Category 3 hurricane, Irma, heads up the coast. How about Mayaca down in Manatee County? Same deal. Winds shooting up 6 p.m. This is very similar to Arcadia. 106 mile per hour winds. Even by 2 p.m., we could be seeing some gusts well in excess of tropical storm force. And over towards Bradenton, same deal. Winds going up. We're talking about tropical storm force, maybe even hurricane force winds by 8 o'clock later on tonight, sustained at 85. In Sarasota, look at this. Also could see triple-digit wind speeds as we shoot up from 78 to 94 mile per hour winds later on today. At Greg D Weather, Twitter and Instagram, we'll try to follow and send out some of this information. Jason Adams, you can find him on Facebook as well. Jason Adams, WFTS, over on Twitter. If you want to get updates from him, he's also posting that information. We're both working in the Weather Center to keep you updated. Take a look at the satellite picture from Irma. The last couple of scans here, man, that eye, it sure is disappearing, isn't it, in some overcast. We've seen the pressure come up 1 millibar. We're talking about some drier air getting sucked into the storm from the west and northwest. A satellite picture jumps here as the Weather Service adjusts the image, but that could be having some effect on the storm as it makes its way towards the Keys. Tornado watch Highlands and over towards DeSoto County. I do expect that to be extended north and east later on through the afternoon, northwest as well. We're making landfall, folks, lower to middle Keys right now. There's lightning and thunder detected in the eye wall as it is coming ashore between Cudjoe Key and Marathon. We're going to be watching the gusts here. Extreme wind warnings are up for the Keys, and then it's up the coast towards southwest Florida. More updates coming up in a few minutes, guys.
All right. Thank you very much, Greg. You know, one of the conditions that we've been watching very carefully, those road conditions, because as this storm gets closer, the conditions begin to deteriorate, which, of course, become very dangerous for you to be out on the roads.
And now officials have made a very important decision with the Sunshine Skyway.
To shut it down indefinitely. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's just for the safety of drivers, for the safety of troopers who are out there. So that bridge is shut down now until after Irma passes. And the conditions here, you can see the couple of droplets there on my traffic camera on the right. That's I-75 at US 301. A couple of people out there on the roads. I-4 looks very much the same. The roads are wet, though, and as the winds start to pick up and the heavy rain starts to come in, those conditions are just going to get worse, which is why it's so important that you really get to where you need to be before lunchtime today. Our Sean Daly right now is in live drive. He is on I-275 checking out conditions there heading into St. Pete.
We just came across the Howard Franklin south heading into Pinellas, and there was nobody, absolutely nobody on there. And I live in downtown St. Pete, where Frank and I are headed right now, and I can honestly say I have never, ever seen the roads this empty. Look at that right there as we head downtown. But right now, road conditions are pretty safe, very open. We're seeing more people, as you can maybe see here on the camera, more people are headed out of downtown St. Pete than going down into it. But right now, the bridge was still open. It was very, very safe. But like you said, when those tropical wind conditions go up to around 40, they're going to shut down the Howard Franklin, and it's going to be a problem. People are going to have to stay where they are. So right now, road conditions pretty good. We're going to show you in a little bit what's going on downtown St. Pete. And when we get there, we'll check back in with you. But right now, we're heading down there, 275. Very, very, very quiet. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Sean. And that's why, again, we cannot stress enough the importance of making your plans now. If you want to go to a shelter, if you're going to a friend's home, wherever you're going to feel safest during this storm, get there now and stay there to ride out this storm. By noon today, I think that's the cutoff that Greg's been telling you about. Noon today is when you need to make your plans because conditions really begin to deteriorate after then.
And, you know, Greg has said some very calming things this morning in addition as he forecasts what potentially could be a very devastating weather situation for our area. He has said that if you were mandatorily, if you were under mandatory evacuation, okay, I'm not a wordsmith here, especially not after 6 hours on air. If you were under mandatory evacuation, okay, and you followed that rule and you got to a shelter, you did the right thing. If you live in a home that wasn't in a mandatory evacuation zone and you're going to hunker down
shelter in place,
yeah, then you're doing the right thing. So again, ride this thing out. We're in this together,
point,
and we're here with you.
It's the anticipation that's the worst. You know, we get to the point, Greg, where we're just, you know, we're ready for it to just do what it's going to do. Can we go to Greg now? Is that what we're going to do? Greg, are you ready to give us an update?
Yeah, give me about 20 seconds, guys.
All right, we can do that.
Then.
Well, you know, that's...
Now is a good time to remind you again, if you can, charge up your cell phones, charge up your laptops, charge up your tablets, because we are probably a safe bet that we're going to lose power at some point tonight. Already 300,000 people in our state are without power. The power companies are predicting 1 million people will lose power for a few days to even a week. So it's best right now to make sure that you get your batteries for your flashlight. Charge up those cell phones, charge up those laptops, anything that you can use to stay connected once the power goes out.
And I will say this, because you can charge your phone off a laptop. If you try to live stream us on a phone or device, it's going to drain the battery really quickly. Our web team is working around the clock. We're sending push alerts. So really important information will get pushed out to your phone, and you can save some battery power.
Checking on conditions across the Bay Area. We've got crews everywhere.
Yes, ABC Action News reporter Kumasi Aaron joins us now live from the Crown Plaza Hotel, where people evacuated to, but now they're being told they may have to leave. Do you have an update for us on that, Kumasi?
Well, this is a mandatory evacuation zone. However, people are still in the hotel and they're planning to be here as the storm moves in. I want to show you what the conditions look like right now. We're seeing a little bit of rain here and there, a little bit of wind, but nothing compared to what these people will experience here in this hotel. Let me show you some video that we shot inside of the hotel, and you can see that they are getting prepared for IRMA. They have tape all along the doors and the windows, keeping people out of the area that they would normally go to hang out at the pool, but evidently nobody going there today or for the next few days. They have some floodgates up just in case there's water that comes in. They fully expect water to come into this hotel. They expect to lose power. Still, some people have decided that this is where they want to ride out the storm. The management here at the hotel has said, I want everyone to be aware that this is a mandatory evacuation zone. Sign this waiver that you acknowledge this and are choosing to stay. And then at noon today, they have a mandatory meeting just to go over the safety procedures when the storm does hit, what they're going to do with stairs, with elevators, with flashlights, just making sure that people here are safe when the storm comes through. And there is a significant amount of people who have decided to stay in this hotel. So hopefully all those people will be at that meeting, will remain safe as they ride out the storm here. Back to you guys.
Have our mics up. There we go. Okay, good. We are now taking a live look from Miami Beach, and we are observing some tornado watches in those areas, as Greg D has told us. We are also seeing the conditions worsen hour by hour here, Dia. I mean, you mentioned
this is the worst that we've seen it.
This is absolutely the worst that we've seen it to this point.
Now, at this point, before we were watching those palm trees blowing pretty good there, but now you can see the rain blowing sideways. So conditions there getting much worse. Again, that area, already 300,000 people without power in that area, and it's going to get worse. You know, more than 1 million people are expected to lose power throughout the state.
And that, again, could be a low-ball number. We want to take this chance to remind you again, if the power does go out, when the power goes out, you can't get our ABC Action News app. You can listen to us on these radio stations on your screen. I'll roll through them real quick, and if you're not by your TV, 99.5, Q105, 94.1, 98.7, 92.5. They're going to simulcast our news when the storm gets closer. And we also want to remind you that we're here too with you. We're going to keep you up to date. We're going to stay on 24/7 all the way through this storm, and then we're going to help you get ready, you know, for what is next after the storm passes. We've got continuous coverage, not just on the air, but we're also on Roku. We're on Apple TV, on our Facebook page, on abcactionnews.com, and also on our free mobile app. Again, if you've got your cell phone near you, your laptop, your tablet, go ahead and charge it up now. Get it charged up so that once the power goes out tonight, then you'll be able to stay connected and you'll know how to stay safe. Right. We've got meteorologist Jason Adams in the Weather Center, and we've got meteorologist Greg D. Watching the latest on the track here and any developments that happen as Irma makes its way towards the Florida Peninsula.
Yeah, we're looking at the winds, guys. Rick in Avon Park, you can tweet Jason and thank him for this. He requested the hourly wind graph for Avon Park in Highlands County. There it is. We expect winds to head up towards hurricane force through at least 8 o'clock. You're going to see some gusts approaching 100 miles per hour. You can find these, or you will eventually be able to find these for other towns on my Twitter feed, Facebook, over towards Instagram as well. A couple of things to note on Irma this morning. Now, the eye seems to be filling in on satellite picture. It still looks pretty well defined on radar, but there's been some drier air filtering into the storm from the west. We've seen the pressure stop falling. That's good news. It actually went up 1 millibar. That at least means intensification has slowed, and the eye is filling in with clouds a little bit. All good news. Now, we do have a tornado watch on the east side of the storm. There are going to be little spin-ups. Now, those pictures that you saw out of Miami is on the very edge of the storm. They are not in hurricane conditions right now. Those were tropical storm conditions. The hurricane conditions are really within 60 to 70 miles of the eye on the east side. Those 130 mile an hour winds, they're only going to happen in this bright ring on the east and north side of the eye. This is that northeast quadrant. Look at this. There are lightning bolts popping up in this thing as it is now making landfall around Cudjoe Key there in the central to lower Keys, the middle Keys, as it heads to the east of Key West. That's good news for Key West. You're getting northerly winds right now. Still could see some extreme winds, but they're not going to be as intense here as they are back towards just about Marathon. The worst of the weather really between Marathon and Cudjoe right here in these middle Keys as this hurricane now crossing the Keys, making its first landfall in the United States. Your Cat 4 gusts right there in that orange and red. Take you up towards South Florida. This rain band has been causing tornado warnings all morning. It's also producing 2 to 3 inches of rain per hour in many cases. It started down towards Fort Lauderdale. We watched it shift north through West Palm, and now it continues to shift north, and then the heavy rain from it is shifting east. So that's Highlands County right there, Lake Placid. It is now entering southern Highlands County, and then eventually this heavy rain is headed over towards DeSoto County. Then it makes its way north towards Hardy County. I'm going to show you another view of that here coming up, but that is going to be one intense rain band right now. The heaviest of the rain seems to be kind of stopping or at least breaking up after you get to I-4. Orlando down south getting heavy rain. Scattered showers, areas of light rain around Tampa. It's not continuous. And there you see Okeechobee down towards the south. These heavy rain bands moving in from Irma. This one right here from Palm City right over the lake is really producing some incredibly heavy rain, and that's going to drift north into southern Highlands County, also over towards DeSoto County. We're going to watch this. Jason and I are monitoring this for any spin-ups. Looks like the radar is at least seeing some light rotation north of Fort Pierce. That's another rain band that's been moving onshore. We've got more live pictures to show you this morning. These are from the West Palm area. Look at that. Miami Beach, excuse me. This is Miami Beach. They're getting some of those wind gusts now, 60, 65 miles an hour at times, as Irma now is really starting to affect that part of South Florida. Strong wind gusts. They've been gusting to 60 miles an hour all morning. Wouldn't be surprised to see Miami report a wind gust 70, 75 miles an hour as we go through the day. There's the western end of that rain band. It's now pointed all the way across the state, now into the Fort Myers area, and this looks like it's going to head up into southern Sarasota. So basically, south of Sarasota, straight east across the state as this rain band sets in. Get ready for just incredible rain. If you've got anyone that's still trying to get around in this storm, this is going to be a very dangerous rain band to move through, as the rain is going to be blinding. All right, wind gusts right now. There you go. Look at Key West, gusting to 94. So that is now the highest I've seen on this map from the Keys, 94-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Miami, where we were just seeing those live pictures, current wind gusts at the airport, 68. Now, the airport is inland. I bet you those Miami Beach pictures, they're probably seeing wind gusts a little stronger, maybe even up to hurricane force already. Pompano Beach, 58 miles per hour, and head up towards Naples and Fort Myers, starting to gust as well. So hurricane conditions, hurricane-sustained winds in the red here, now over the Everglades, Everglades City, down into the middle and lower Keys, including Key West. The yellow area, tropical storm force winds, basically the whole state. The hurricane force winds then shift north by tonight, 6:30, 8:30. They're going to start spreading into Sarasota, then the Bay Area. Still looking at that overnight timing for the Bay Area, Sarasota to Tampa. Wind gusts here in some places exceeding 100 miles an hour, and then shifting towards the Nature Coast before sunrise on Monday. I mean, we're going to get hurricane force winds in places, gusts in Pasco, Hernando, and Citrus County, really after midnight and out there towards 2, 3 a.m., I think, when the heaviest of the winds will start there. Then it all lifts north. We could even see hurricane force winds over Tallahassee, in our state capital, up there towards Leon County, as Irma could make 2 landfalls in the state if it does actually make a landfall here on the West Coast, clearing out finally by Monday and Tuesday. So your highest potential for sustained hurricane winds at any point during the storm, that's going to be right along the coast. Sarasota over towards Manatee County, back over towards portions of Pinellas County. Here's the storm hour by hour as we take you through it. Things looking a little stormier by 4 o'clock, especially south of Tampa. Those wind gusts still approaching 80. See those brief 114-mile-an-hour gusts before 8 o'clock, certainly possible. Bradenton back over towards Arcadia, maybe Sebring, in the southern counties. Then everything spreads north. That's the that's the center of circulation heading north. So the worst conditions, offshore flow, no surge with these strong winds initially as the storm approaches at midnight in the Bay Area. The surge comes on the backside of the storm as the winds turn back out of the west. That happens early tomorrow morning. Now, in Sarasota, hopefully the strongest winds will lift north of you during your high tide, so maybe the surges will be reduced, but they'll be increasing during high tides in St. Pete and over towards Clearwater. So westward-facing beaches will be most affected early tomorrow morning. Then everything lifts to the north, and we finally get clearer weather by Monday night into Tuesday. Guys.
All right, thanks, Greg.
Well, the weather in Manatee County is turning more intense by the hour.
It sure is. We have reporter Ryan Smith in Bradenton with a live look at conditions there. Ryan, just describe to us what you're seeing and what you've been seeing progress here over the last couple hours.
Yeah, James, honestly, throughout these overnight hours, conditions were really fair here in Manatee County, but I can tell you in the past half hour to 45 minutes or so, they've changed a bit. I'm going to take the camera up here. We're going to give you kind of a vantage point of what we're seeing. The wind has picked up sporadically with some pretty strong wind gusts. You can see the palm trees up there, the palm trees kind of kicking to the left side over there because the wind is picking up in this area of Southwest Bradenton. And then I want to direct your attention right over here to show you how some of the businesses in this shopping center have storm prepped here. This isn't the typical plywood that a lot of people are boarding up with. This is just sheets of metals that are completely covering all entrances and windows at this Winn-Dixie grocery store. And follow me over here. I'm going to show you, take a look at this preparation right here. You have plastic wrap around securing this trash can to the building's column, because you can only imagine, it's not an issue right now, but once the winds pick up later today, as they are expected to do, what a dangerous projectile this trash can would be and what damage it could cause. Now, just a little while ago, we spoke to a Bradenton couple who decided not to seek shelter at an area school, but to ride out the storm at home. Here's what they had to say.
I pray we're going to be safe, but we're just going to ride it out in our bathroom and just hope we make it.
And keep in mind here, folks, in Manatee County, that if you do decide to stay home to ride out this storm, the Manatee County Public Safety Group is giving a warning this morning that, again, if you stay at home and once we see conditions of tropical storm winds, it could take up to 72 hours for them to respond if you have an emergency. So that is certainly something to keep in mind. Reporting live this morning in Bradenton, Ryan Smith, ABC Action News.
All right, thank you, Ryan. Southwest Florida is definitely beginning to feel Irma's impact this morning. Both the wind and the rain are starting to pick up there.
We have reporter Tony Russell in Naples with the latest conditions there as this storm blows in.
We're continuing to watch Irma's arrival here in the Naples area. Collier County under several mandatory evacuations. We're actually just east of one of those mandatory evacuation zones. US 41 is that area, that dividing line. It's the north-south. Everyone calls it the Tamiami Trail. Everyone west of it in the mandatory evacuation zone. Everyone east of it not in it, but still in a very cautious area. But when it comes to the rainfall that's anticipated, really just some light ponding of the roads. This is a parking lot, so this is obviously going to be a little bit different than what you see out on some of the main arterial roads. When you start gauging what Irma is about to bring, really light rain and light wind, but as some of those bands continue to circle around, that's when we know that Irma is on our doorstep. In Naples, I'm Tony Russell.
The Sunshine Skyway Bridge is closed. It is closed now. Lindsay Logue, our traffic anchor, tells us it will be closed until after the storm passes. As of now, the other bridges are still open.
Here, Sean Gandy is heading toward the Gandy Bridge. He's one of our live drive vehicles checking out conditions. When we checked up with him last time, there was nobody on the road. That's a good sign. Sean, is that still the case?
Sean, we know it's a little weird, but it is a good sign.
That is a good sign. So it is a good sign. We're making great time. We're making great time. No, guys, we're on the Gandy now, about to go on the Gandy Bridge. Earlier I showed you Howard Franklin, 275 South, very, very empty. We got a guy just drove by us here, and you're seeing, you'll see some cars are heading out this way on the Gandy. But yeah, people, again, more people in the direction of leaving and getting out of town than people driving into town, which Frank and I will be doing shortly enough. We're going to go down to downtown St. Pete and show you some of that down there. But again, very safe on the roads. I've seen a lot of law enforcement people out here making sure people are safe. Yeah, it's good. So far, the roads, not a lot of people out here, but that's a good thing. On the Gandy, we just saw two people and their dog walking on the beach, and it was very sweet. It was an older couple and a big fluffy golden retriever, and they're just walking on the beach up here by the Gandy, and I'm all right with that, as long as they get home and they get safe in the next hour or so. But, taking a breather and getting some fresh air and getting away from some of the madness, I'm okay with that. So, as you can see, it's quiet out here, and people are getting ready, but, try to relax. Try to take deep breaths. My family, I have two daughters. They are staying in a non-evac zone in Pinellas Park. So, I'm checking in with them. And my girls are 13 and 9, and, they're very much 13 and 9. And they're kind of oblivious, and they were having fun last night, and I'm fine with that too. you know, no, it's going to be scary later. It could be very, very scary later. So they might as well have fun now and, you know, just be kids. So, all right, guys. So anyway, yeah, so we are going to, in a little bit, we'll check back in with you from probably downtown St. Pete, where I live. We'll show you Beach Drive, some of the stuff down there, and back to you guys.
All right, thanks, Sean. You know, it kind of sounds like Sean's inviting us to a hurricane party at his house. He's like, you know, have fun now. It's going to be scary later on. I love Sean.
Even on a day like today, he can still make me laugh.
Always brings the sun. Always
Sean Daly
brings the
checking
sun.
Pinellas County roads for us, making great time, as he says.
Yeah, and the good thing is he's not finding a whole lot of traffic on the roads, and that's a really good sign because we've been telling you all throughout the morning, if you do decide that you want to go to a shelter or maybe you're going to a friend's house instead to ride out the storm, do it now because conditions are only going to get worse as the day goes on. Greg's been telling you, Greg and Jason, both in the Weather Center, they've been saying around noon in some parts that the conditions are going to start to deteriorate.
They have been. Yes, they have been. And I think that it's safe to say that you want to have, I mean, Greg told us where you were at sunset last night is where you should stay.
Yeah.
This is really, you have to be extremely cautious going out today. And you said noon is kind of that
Yeah, you have just
time.
hours now. But as we're hearing, there are still shelters available throughout the Bay Area. We've talked about shelters open in Pinellas County, also in Polk County. But here's some important information. If you do decide to go to a shelter, call ahead to your emergency operations center. Make sure that there is still room for you before you head out. That's very important. So you make sure that you want to do that.
That's right. That's right. Great advice there, Dia. We have Lindsay Logue, our traffic anchor, standing by with an update for us on the conditions outside. Lindsay?
Yeah, you were talking about that, the Sunshine Skyway Bridge being closed.
It is, and this is one of the other reasons why you really need to get in place now because of closures like this, and I don't think that this is going to be the only bridge closed in the next 24 hours. Nothing here on the Sunshine Skyway. 400 plus feet up over the bay. You can see the white crest, some of that choppy water starting as the winds start to pick up here from Hurricane Irma. This bridge will now be closed until Irma is well past the Bay Area and until troopers and FDOT determine that the bridge is once again safe for drivers. So anyone from Pinellas to Manatee or Manatee back up to Pinellas, I-75 is going to be your best bet. Right now is for the other bridges. We're talking about the Bayside, the Gandy, the Courtney Campbell, and the Howard Franklin. They are all open. There is no wind threshold for those bridges, but I do expect one, if not all of them, to fully close at some point when Irma is right over the Bay Area. And that cuts off all of the major arteries connecting two major cities and two big counties. So don't find yourself stuck in Pinellas if you want to eventually end up in Hillsborough or Polk, or you're going over to Volusia County today. Make the preparations and leave now before anything else closes. Live look right here, I-75 at US 301. Headlights coming on up from the north, rather. This is southbound traffic. These lanes here, northbound traffic. No crashes, no breakdowns on any of the majors throughout the Bay Area. I-275, I-4 looks a lot like this as well. Stay safe. I'm on Twitter all day at Tampa Bay Traffic. I will help you get to where you need to go. Dia.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. Pinellas County officials just know that they are also closely monitoring the progress of Hurricane Irma from the Emergency Operations Center in downtown Clearwater.
Irma forecast to hit Clearwater hard with winds possibly over 100 miles per hour and a strong storm surge. Our Simon Shaquette is right now getting an update for us. Let's go live to him. Simon?
Good morning to you guys. Yeah, actually, we're going to speak with the sheriff right now who just joined us. Good morning to you, Sheriff. Can you talk about what your deputies are doing? I understand that they're securing some of the areas, so certain barrier islands, you can't go there anymore.
Right. So as of 6 o'clock this morning, all of the barrier islands, everything from Dunedin all the way down to Tierra Verde is sealed off. Nobody will be allowed back out there. You know, based upon the best estimates we have, the storm is going to be here early this afternoon. So it's time to begin the next phase of these precautions and preparations. And so as of 6 o'clock, anybody that comes off will not be allowed on. And anybody that's already off is you're not going back out there until after the storm passes and after we do a damage assessment and a safety assessment to make sure that people can safely go back.
We understand that there's room for about another 25,000 people at area shelters. So clearly a lot of people still need to get out there.
Yeah, they do. Or, you know, some of them may have gone to other places within the county or they may have left. So we do have a lot of shelter space, and they're running out of time. And very, very quickly here is if they haven't moved, then they're going to be told to shelter in place. The Citizen Information Center is still getting calls and is inundated with calls. But at some point, people are going to be told just it's too late, is just shelter in place.
And at the last news conference, you talked about 100 extra deputies out there. What can you tell me about what those deputies are doing to make everyone safe?
Well, they're making sure just that, is that they're in the neighborhoods watching the businesses, because, again, while everybody is gone, all of that property and all those businesses are vulnerable, and we want to make sure nothing happens. So they're going to stay out there as long as we can possibly keep them out there, but we'll reach a point where, for their safety, we're going to have to pull them off, and then we'll get them back out there again as soon as it's safe for them to be back on the streets.
One more question. We just saw you walk out of the command center of this Emergency Operations Center. What's going on back there right now? What are they doing?
Well, a lot of what we have been doing, which is a lot of logistics, a lot of movement, and trying to get the right people in the right places. And we're in a phase now where we're starting to really make plans for what's going to happen after the storm. You know, we've got the broad plans, and now we're starting to implement those plans, because we've got to stay ahead of this thing and look at the recovery phase and what's going to go on after the storm passes. So that's a lot of what's happening right now, is making plans for that. We'll probably have some announcements of that later today, because this is going to have a significant impact on Pinellas County, and people are going to need to restrict access.
And the bridges to Pinellas County are going to get shut down at some point.
Yes, and I would envision that as the latest predictions we have from the call we just had at 7 a.m. with the National Weather Service and all the predictions, I would envision that we will probably seal the county off until we can do a damage assessment, which is going to mean all of the entry points into the county and, of course, all the bridges. The bridges also have to be inspected by the Florida Department of Transportation before anybody can go over them after the storm comes through. So people should expect that this is not going to be, you get a little rain and you move on. This is going to be a process, and it's all in the interest of making sure that people are safe.
Thank you, Sheriff, for your time. Thank you. As you just heard, a process to make sure everyone will be safe. And as we mentioned, 25,000 more people. They have room for them at the area shelters. So if you are home and you're in one of those areas where you need to evacuate, please do so immediately if you have not already. We'll send it back to you.
All right, thank you, Simon. We want to check in now with Jason Adams. He's been in the Weather Center with Greg D all throughout the morning. He's got the latest information on this storm. Not a whole lot has changed, Jason. We're still looking at a major hurricane here in the Bay Area.
Yeah, especially when you get into the day of the systems affecting your area. There's not a lot of fluctuation that can happen. Now, granted, we saw that in Charlie the day of. It made that abrupt right turn. We're not seeing that happening with this system, but it's a possibility, and we'll keep you posted. But right now, the immediate concern is just to the east of Key West, so through Marathon Key, Duck Island, all those areas down there along Highway 1, now being impacted by the potential for 130-mile-per-hour winds as this Category 4 hurricane is making its first U.S. landfall. And then after that, it's going to continue to move up the southwest Florida coast. Does it move onshore or does it stay offshore? Really doesn't matter what happens here in the Bay Area. It's all going to be the same, whether it's on or offshore. And that means hurricane force winds, flash flooding, tornado threat, and then finally by Monday night we'll be done with this system and things will get back to normal weather-wise. We'll have some cleanup to do, unfortunately, with what this system's going to bring. If you're just joining us for the first time this morning, you went to bed last night. It was a Category 3 storm. It's now up to a Category 4 storm. But as we go through the afternoon hours, we are expecting to see this drop in intensity just a little bit. So as it heads up towards us here into the Bay Area, there's the chance it could move onshore somewhere near Port Charlotte, perhaps maybe even into Sarasota or into St. Petersburg. Not out of the question for us to see a landfall here, but again, really focusing in now on the west coast of Florida. And what that means for us is, again, not a lot of fluctuation in the track over the next few hours. We will likely have significant impacts from the system here. It'll start with some rain this morning, mostly light rain around Tampa now, but just to the east through Polk County and then south through Highlands County. It's starting to get really heavy out there, and some of those gusts could easily start gusting, we'll say 45, 55 miles per hour. So we're just hours away from us all really starting to see those tropical storm force winds move in. And then late today into tonight, that's when the center of the hurricane will make its closest approach to us. And that's when, unfortunately, we have to talk about those potentially higher winds over 100 miles per hour. Now, there has been some changes with the surge forecast. Last couple of days, with it being an inland system, we weren't terribly concerned about surge. Well, now that it's hugging the coastline or potentially staying just offshore, the surge threat has gone up, and that's why the National Hurricane Center, the National Weather Service issued that storm surge warning yesterday. We're still looking at the potential for most of us to see up to 6 feet of surge, but the timing on the surge is really going to be tonight to tomorrow morning. So today, winds will continue to push offshore. That will keep the water at bay for now. But as we go into tomorrow, when the area of low pressure moves to the north, when the eye moves to our north, winds start to turn back in off the Gulf of Mexico. So tomorrow morning, also around 5:36 a.m., that's when high tide is too, and we already have a higher tide about 1 to 2 feet above normal tide levels. So that's going to add to the threat for us to get up to 6, perhaps even 8 to 9 feet in a few isolated spots of surge. And that includes us here in the Tampa Bay area, both the old Tampa Bay and Hillsborough Bay. We'll have to watch very closely for the surge tomorrow morning. Now, as we look at your potential wind gusts coming up for us this afternoon, already this morning we've seen gusts over 40 miles per hour in some spots, but the bulk of the tropical storm force conditions still staying to our south. Watch how quickly this changes. By 2 o'clock, we're all well into the tropical storm force winds from Citrus County all the way south to Sarasota County and, of course, east to Polk County. 50, 55 mile per hour winds begin from noon to 2 o'clock in and around the bay. We're already looking at 70 mile per hour winds potentially moving in to Manatee and Sarasota counties, and also again back towards the east to where we're looking at Highlands County, potentially seeing those 70 mile per hour gusts. Now, if you're away from your screen, I invite you to take a look at this, because this is when we're expecting the worst of the conditions to show up. Between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. tomorrow, that's the 12-hour window for us to potentially hold on to these hurricane force winds. Now, sustained winds will be a little bit lower than the gusts, thankfully, but the gusts are what could potentially do some significant damage. So by 9, 10 o'clock tonight, we're pushing 80 miles per hour here in the Bay. And notice Bradenton, Sarasota, also down towards Zolfo Springs, we are looking at 106 mile per hour wind gusts at that point, and those 100 mile per hour wind gusts are moving up the coast, giving us all that threat from 9 to 10 to midnight to 3 a.m. Speaking of 3 a.m., here's 3:30. We're still looking at 90 mile per hour winds at that point. And then as we head into tomorrow afternoon, especially after the noon hour, we'll drop to tropical storm force conditions, and then we're done with this system as we go into Monday night. By the way, we continue with a tropical or tornado watch. This will likely be expanded to the north and to the west later on today. And once that happens, of course, myself and Greg D, we will let you know. Guys.
All right, thank you, Jason. Meanwhile, Sarasota is starting to see some wind and rain.
Now let's go right to ABC Action News reporter Wendy Lane for an update on conditions there. Wendy, what can you tell us? What are you seeing? Looks like everything's. Looks like you were talking about wind gusts before, and the last time we talked.
Yeah,
you were saying some wind gusts. How are those going?
You know, they're very on and off. I don't know if you can tell. I can tell by my hair. When my hair's wet, it's not as windy. When it's dry and crazy, I've been through a really hard wind gust. So they've been very on and off. Right now, we are at the Sarasota Bayside, so we're kind of like down in an area, so the wind isn't bothering us so much, but the rain's kind of definitely spitting on us. But I did want to talk to you guys about that storm surge that we're expected to get here in Sarasota that could be anywhere from 6 to 10 feet. I was just talking about to a guy that owns a boat here, and I said, "Sir, are you scared? Are you worried that your boat's gonna, float off into the ocean or something?" And he said no, because they're tied to these floating docks. So that's what we're standing on right now, and that's one of those floating docks, and I kind of want to show you guys how it works. So this cement kind of post right here has wheels on it, so when the water rises, and if you know about boats, you already obviously know all this stuff, but the dock raises. The guy I was talking to believes that with that storm surge we could get, that this dock I'm standing on could raise up to here. Isn't that incredible? Just thinking that the water could be up that high in 24, 48 hours. So, but he said that his boat is safe because it's on one of these floating docks. So that was a relief to him. But again, just down here in Sarasota, I mean, we have been seeing all over those very strong gusty winds. It's really been just raining kind of continuously all morning long. And when we go out into an area like an open street, or we're just driving around, we're running over those pong frogs. They're all over the streets. And it's something I don't know. You don't want to run over those because they are kind of hard. But anyway, yeah, they're all over. So just right now from those gusts, that's what's happening. Just imagine what it's going to be like, later today and going into tomorrow, like what we're hearing is going to happen here. So we're continuing to, everyone's continuing to just bear with the situation and to possibly to go to those shelters if they can. I know a lot of people this morning are making those decisions. Do we go ahead and go to a shelter? Do we go ahead and stay with a friend so we don't have to bear the brunt of what we're about to face with the hurricane coming in? So if you're making that decision, I would say to make the decision to go to a shelter, go stay with a friend, because these winds are no joke. Just with the gusts we've seen this morning, we've seen a lot of what could be very damaging and dangerous so far. In Sarasota, Wendy Lane, ABC Action News.
Wendy Lane, who I think's been reporting now for 46 hours straight for us, doing a fantastic job out there. Between Harvey and now Irma, we've talked a lot lately about the force of the wind during a hurricane. Tampa Bay expected to experience hurricane-force winds tonight and tomorrow.
You know, but it's one thing to tell you that it's going to be 100 miles an hour, so we want to put this into perspective for you. Reporter Christopher King went to a place in Las Vegas where you can get an idea of what it's really like to get caught in a hurricane, minus, of course, the rain and the flying debris.
Watch your step, get in here. We go to the wind tunnel at Vegas Indoor Skydiving to give you a glimpse of what it's like to try to weather unforgiving wind. I have to stand as upright as I can and brace myself so the wind doesn't slam me into the wall. In a Category 1 hurricane, wind speeds are at least 74 miles an hour. You can't hear me above the roar of the wind. Category 2, at least 96 miles an hour. I still try to speak. It's useless. Category 3, at least 111 miles an hour. The force of the wind knocks me back. I can barely keep my footing. Manager and chief instructor Rob Grills keeps me from taking off. By now, the wind carries Grills into the air. In the tunnel, that's about 120 miles an hour. Hurricane Irma at its peak, a Category 5, bulldozing through the Caribbean with a force of more than 157 miles an hour.
Wouldn't be out there in those winds if I had a choice.
Grills and I are safe in a controlled environment with consistent wind. Imagine trying to survive outdoors in a hurricane with wind blasting you from almost any direction.
Walking your dog or something like that outside, or anything you're carrying can be caught by the wind and just blown away.
This was all fun and games right here, but in a real hurricane, it can get up to 70 miles an hour, 90, 120 miles an hour, even more in the case of Irma. And in a real hurricane, you could get very seriously hurt or even lose your life.
Christopher King, Action News.
Okay, that puts it into perspective. You know, one thing to tell you 100 miles an hour, but then to see it and to see what it does to your body and what it's capable of.
And he was, what was it, 120?
Yeah.
That actually picked him up. So
he was, you know,
that's the point where you and I looked over each other like it will pick you up.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, I think about it. If you're on the road and you're driving in that kind of wind, it can pick up debris and slam it into your car, you know, or slam it into the road, causing you to have an accident. It's just so dangerous. And that's another reason why we keep telling you, make your plans. If you're going to go out, do it right now. Do it early. Right,
right. We right now want to talk about you know, everybody's on high alert. Okay, we've got emergency operation officials. We had Bob Gualtieri, Pinellas County Sheriff. We interviewed him earlier. Obviously, law enforcement across the state right now on high alert.
Our Serena Vazan joins us now with the new video from the Florida Highway Patrol to show you.
That's right. You know, as you guys both mentioned, it's all hands on deck, as they say during such threats as Irma. Troopers like us on 12-hour-plus shifts, and as James mentioned, Wendy working like 48 hours straight. And right now, many things happening to keep all of us safe as well as prepared. Take a look at these two pieces of video that I found. The first tweeted out by troopers in Jacksonville. Here, they're escorting fuel trucks from Camp Landing. If you're wondering where that is, that's a primary military training base, and that's near Stark. The crews are replenishing fuel after reports that 65% of gas stations in Miami-Dade ran out of fuel. And in our area, about 44% of gas stations out of gas. The outages came after mass evacuation orders. More than 6 million people took to the roads. We also want to show you troopers in our area. Take a look at this, escorting military trucks. The reinforcements coming in as far from Alaska. And we're told that the Department of Defense deployed tens of thousands of military personnel for rescue and recovery efforts. Officials reassuring Floridians folks here will get any assistance that they need. And James and Dia, that of course is very reassuring. You know, the Pentagon sending out that statement on Friday saying they're ready to send as many military troops here as needed.
Absolutely. Anytime you see that the military, the Pentagon is sending troops, we saw Florida Highway Patrol escorting those the tankers that were bringing in gas.
McDill evacuated yesterday outside of our newsroom. We had tanks set up. It's what you want to hear. It's what you want to see.
Yeah, you want to know that the cavalry is on the way.
Absolutely.
So just know that we're in good hands. As soon as the storm comes through, we're in good hands. We're going to get this place back together again.
We've got you in good hands, too, because we've got meteorologist Greg D. and meteorologist Jason Adams watching this storm. We're going to go to Greg D. now, who has been hard at work tracking the very latest developments here as Irma progresses towards us. Greg.
Yeah, lots happening behind the scenes, guys, as we continue to watch some incredible rain bands now starting to affect our area. Now, if you're listening to this, come to the screen because I'm going to show you some wind planners, wind forecasts for different towns around the Bay Area. This is Tampa, the next 12 hours in all of these. The numbers here, sustained winds. And notice, by nightfall, Tampa's winds coming up to near 70 miles an hour. Our strongest winds, like we've been telling you, 8 p.m. tonight to 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. All right, St. Pete, your wind forecast on the screen right now. If you live anywhere in Pinellas County, this will also work for you. Very similar conditions all across Pinellas. Anytime you hear me isolate a certain town in Pinellas County, basically, I'm just picking out that one town. This forecast will work for anyone from Palm Harbor all the way down towards Fort DeSoto. 87-mile-an-hour sustained winds by 8 o'clock on this forecast model. Certainly, that's well within hurricane force. Bradenton, Manatee County, also with St. Pete. You're just there across the Sunshine Skyway. 85-mile-an-hour sustained winds by 8 o'clock, then increasing towards midnight to near 100 miles an hour, especially down towards Manatee County. Tornado watch Highlands and DeSoto County right now. I'm going to get to that coming up. We've got 2 tornado warnings down across South Florida. 130-mile-an-hour wind, 929 millibar pressure, faster moving to the northwest. Pressure has actually come up a little bit, so it may be done intensifying. The western side of the storm not looking as well organized as the east side, maybe encountering a little bit of dry air. The eye wall is now in the Keys. It has probably now made landfall in the lower to middle Keys to the east of Key West. So Key West is on the west side of this eye wall. They're going to get some nasty winds, but not as nasty as Marathon and Cudjoe. There's lightning and thunder in this, and it is so strong that the National Weather Service in Key West has issued extreme wind warnings for the middle Keys. Their wording here is that they expect swaths of tornado-like damage in the eye wall. And then look at all the lightning south of Marathon. This is an intense area of rain. Here are the 2 tornado warnings. This is Hollywood, North Miami. This is Brevard over towards Miami-Dade County until 8 o'clock, maybe a spin up there. And there was one near Jupiter that just expired. That little cell there coming up across 95. Tornado warning was up. They've canceled it. We'll watch that cell as it moves our way. We'll take a look at the radar in our area coming up, guys, in the next update.
All right, thank you, Greg. 8 minutes till 8 right now. You know, we've been telling you throughout the morning that shelters still have space throughout the Bay Area and also neighboring counties, but we just found out that they have filled up in Lee County.
And Clifton French is live for us in a Fort Myers neighborhood. Let's join Clifton now if we could. I want to bring up his picture and see what conditions look like there. Clifton, I see you're out near water and the wind seems to have picked up a bit.
Yeah, you know, we're not a neighbor anymore. We came out toward Fort Myers Beach, and honestly, this is, just as you came out to this live shot, the strongest that I've seen these winds come out here so far. Out on the beach is where these winds are, where we've noticed the winds being higher. This is Fort Myers Beach. I just want to show you something, though. I used to live out here, and I've never seen the tide this far out. The pier, you can see where water can typically get up to on the pier. Low tide is about 10:45 here today, according to tide charts. So, you know, the tide is going out, but, you know, this is what we've seen before storms out here. But these winds really picking up out here. Now, this area has, for the most part, been evacuated. Most people have taken off out of here. They are expecting, you know, quite a bit of storm surge right in this area. right now, I mean, we're planning to get out of here, as soon as this storm really starts to pick up. But right now, we're feeling it come in. We're feeling all of that. Now, I want to talk about those shelters. Most of those shelters did fill up. At last check, I saw that there were still 3. If people need to find shelter, if they're in an evacuation zone like this one, they need. There are those 3 shelters, but most of them, once again, at capacity. So those 3 shelters throughout Lee County. But very, very full. Germain Arena is full, and Germain Arena, I think there are about 5,000 people inside of that shelter. But these wind gusts and this rain is just really starting. It rained, off and on all night with wind gusts, but this is definitely the strongest that it's getting. We can feel that storm really starting to creep up this way. So we're gonna keep you posted. We're gonna head around all over here. We're eventually going to take shelter ourselves, and so we'll bring you all the updates that we can as this storm approaches Southwest Florida right here. I'm reporting live in Fort Myers Beach. Clifton French, ABC Action News.
All right, thank you, Clifton. As you can see right there, conditions are really beginning to deteriorate. Again, he was in Lee County in Fort Myers, but it is also raining here in much of the Bay Area as well. We've been telling you throughout the morning that conditions are really going to start getting bad around maybe 10 o'clock, noon today, which is why we're urging you, if you have to go out, you absolutely have to go out and you want to try to find shelter or maybe find a safer place to ride out this storm, do it now. Do it now before they start to get really bad and before we get to a point where the conditions are just dangerous and you cannot go out anymore.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That's exactly it. Now, we have ABC Action News reporter Brian Callahan right now. He has an update. He's in Palm Harbor for conditions there. Let's go out to him if we can. Brian. Oh, Brian, good morning. What can you tell us?
We're starting to see this light rain pick back up right now. It's been a pretty consistent light to moderate rain for the last hour, and it's been kind of like a ghost town most of the day. We are starting to see some traffic pick up out here on the 19, but most of the stores, restaurants, even convenience stores are closed. The one convenience store we have found that was open, planning to close in just about an hour and a half at this point. So they were actually one of the busier stores because everybody that needed anything was heading there. They were the last store we found with gas in the area, and they were wrapped the pumps about half an hour ago when we stopped by. So running really low on gas, everything. Again, just some cars picking up. This is about 5 times the amount of traffic we've seen all day. We went half-hour stretches out here all morning without seeing another car on the road. So a lot of people seeming to be setting up, getting ready to be in their houses for the long haul of this storm. And when it came to trying to board up their houses for this storm, all of the hardware stores we found were closed, pallets in front of their doors, not planning to reopen. So if they are trying to board up, they're going to have to find supplies somewhere else. Reporting live in Palm Harbor, Brian Callahan, ABC Action News.
All right, thanks, Brian. Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd also giving us an update on conditions there just a few minutes ago.
ABC Action News reporter Andrea Lyon joins us now live with his message to everybody in the area. Andrea, what did he say?
19 shelters at last check that are still open. Only 2 have been reported.
Yeah, we just spoke with Grady Judd a short time ago.
Okay, we're having some audio issues there with Andrea. We will get back to her when we get that straightened out.
Okay, we do have crews. As you can see, we've got crews all over the area checking on emergency operations centers. We'll get to some of them coming up in just a second, but we do want to get over to Greg. I think, Greg, you got any new updates over there?
Yeah, he does. Greg, what can you tell us?
Yeah, I've been watching the storms. We can get right to it. We can look at the radar here this morning. I've got a lot to talk about today, so there's never a bad time to throw it to me. Good morning, everybody. We are going to see winds on the increase in the Bay Area. I was just about to tweet this information, but we'll present it on screen instead. So here is the wind forecast for Tampa. Our winds approaching sustained hurricane force. This is what these numbers are. These are sustained winds in Tampa, hour by hour through 8 o'clock. Notice near 70 miles an hour by 8 o'clock. St. Pete, your winds are on the screen right now. You could see sustained winds over hurricane force by 8 o'clock, near hurricane force by 6. So the winds will increase in St. Pete before they do in Tampa as the storm works its way up the coast. St. Pete also on the water. That area downtown is going to get a wind right off the bay into Pinellas County. That's going to be a nasty wind. 85-mile-an-hour sustained winds in Bradenton. This is going to be at 8 o'clock tonight, building up through tropical storm strength all day long. Tornado watch Highlands and down towards DeSoto County. Been looking at the information from the National Weather Service down here in the Keys. I just did a wind scan of this northeast eye wall just to the west of Marathon, and the radar is picking up winds of 145 to 160 miles an hour, about 1,000 feet off the ground. So this is why the Hurricane Center is maintaining Category 4 intensity. There are winds in this storm and wind gusts. In this rain could push some of those winds down towards the Keys, and because of that, it's making landfall in the Keys now. The Weather Service has issued an extreme wind warning for the middle and lower Keys, and that's because we could have tornado-like damage in that eye wall. I expect those types of warnings to be issued anywhere on the southwest Florida coast if the eye wall makes landfall. Tornado warning, Miami-Dade County, down towards Broward County. This is Hollywood down to North Miami. They had a couple spins there. Had a tornado warning for Jupiter. That is now gone. All right, well, actually, we're going to stay on this, guys, because we've got a new tornado warning now in Polk County. So we're not going anywhere. We're staying with this, and that is a new tornado warning in Polk County. We've been watching these cells coming onshore all afternoon. I'm going to stay at the radar for this so I can track it with you. We're zooming into Polk County right now. The tornado warning is now up right between Bartow and Fort Meade. It does include just Polk County, and it's until 8:30 this morning. We're going to go over to the radar sweep and show you exactly what's going on inside the storm. Again, a tornado warning in portions of Polk County. The area that we're watching for this possible tornado, I'm going to take the tornado warning off. Right there, south of Bartow, just to the north of Fort Meade. It's about to cross Highway 17. So if you're living between Bartow and Fort Meade, you've got to make sure you're staying in the interior portion of your home. Just in case, anyone in Bartow and Fort Meade, it is between the two, but if you live in those two cities, you've got to get inside your house and away from windows. We could be looking at a brief spin up. Again, a tornado warning now for portions of Polk County for the next 29 minutes as we move through the morning. Looking at the radar, it looks like the spin was a little bit stronger earlier. And this is the thing with these storms. You see there, I'm going to highlight the area just a few minutes ago. It's that little notch in the green. I'm going to try that one more time. Right there to the west of Crook Lake Park. That's where it was starting near Florida Highway 640. As we advance through time, it actually looks a little weaker now than it was earlier, but it was strong enough where the National Weather Service has gone ahead and issued that tornado warning for portions of Polk County until 8:30. We'll go back to the radar view, show you exactly what we're looking at in this storm. It's that little red area here between Fort Meade and Bartow. I'll see if I can track it for you. Pulling up the tornado warning information, we'll see how fast the storm is moving. Tornado is possible. This storm is moving west at 30 miles an hour. So it's moving pretty fast. Putting a storm track here for you together, 30 miles an hour to the west. We're going to track it from Highway 17 over the next 30 minutes. The only other major community in the path of this storm is Agricola. So the arrival time there, that's going to be about 8:10. You're just to the west of Highway 17 and Agricola. You're going to have to get inside. The safest place to be during a tornado warning is inside your home, away from windows and away from doors. You want to get to the interior portion of your home. If you've got a bathroom, a closet with no windows, great place to be as we continue to watch this storm. It's this little red area right here on the radar. There could be a brief spin up at any time with any of these cells, but it's this one that we're most concerned right now. Bartow, south side of town. I would also get inside just in case to your safe place, and then everyone north of Fort Meade as well. It's a very small tornado warning. That is not unusual for tropical systems, as these storms typically spin up and spin down very quickly. Unlike stronger systems that we see during the spring months, these types of tornadoes are going to be the weaker variety, EF0, EF1, but they could easily uproot trees, down power lines. They could cause a little bit of structural damage as well. Now, ahead of that, we've got Florida Highway 37 just south of Mulberry. So I think it stays south of Mulberry. It's going to head into mainly the western portions of Polk County. The warning is not extended towards the Hillsborough-Polk County line. It is not very likely that this storm is going to hold together all the way into Hillsborough County. In fact, you're getting updated radar imagery there, right there. And if there is an area of rotation, it's over Highway 17 right now in that red area. I'm going to have to step away, guys, so I can keep readjusting the radar. Can't stay frozen on that shot. So we're going to go and scan the storm for wind and see exactly what we see inside of Polk County. We can actually take a little scope tool here. And the area that we're looking at, see the darker greens here? Generally right here, right along Highway 17. That's the tornado warning box, and that's going to be Highway 17, now almost on to the west of Highway 17. There's the latest update from the radar. We're continuously scanning this thing. It does not look particularly strong. Just my observation of this right now. It does not look like there's a well-defined circulation, a well-defined rotation in this system. I think this is going to be a very brief spin up. The other deal is there is rain all around this thing, so you're not going to see it. You're probably not going to hear it. It's already breezy as it is. It's basically almost like a little enhancement to the gusty winds that we've already got. And that will move past Highway 17. Agricola, the only place in Polk County, populated place that's in this area. But basically, if you live between Highway 60 in Polk County and then Florida Highway 674 south of Mulberry, I'd get inside, get away from windows, get away from doors, maybe an interior portion of your home. A hallway is a good place to be, just in case there's some flying debris outside. I think the one positive here is that many of you may have boarded up your home. So you don't have to worry about your windows being broken by any stronger winds than we've already got, because many of you already took those precautions ahead of just the strong winds in Irma. And honestly, a little spin up like this will may not even have winds as strong as what Irma is producing right now, because these are so brief. I'm going to animate this for you here. Let's actually slow the radar down so we can get kind of a better idea. We'll do this over the last 30 minutes so we can just kind of narrow in on that storm. And the area that we were watching, that little red area right here, you see it was really red, kind of more intense as it passed over Crooked Lake Park. It has weakened significantly, so I would not be surprised if what we've got here from the Weather Service, which is that tornado warning until 8:30, does not get extended, number one. I'm not very concerned about areas to the west of there, south of Mulberry, and especially eastern Hillsborough County right now. It may also not last until 8:30. These, again, very quick. We've been seeing these all morning on the east coast of Florida. We had ones up there just south of Melbourne. We have a warning right now for Miami-Dade County, north towards Hollywood. Those are very quick spin-ups. Palm Beach County has been under warnings, and now we're watching for additional warnings. Now, this is not the only cell, however, that we need to watch through the day, because the actual stronger line here is down to the south. Take a look at this intense band of heavy rain and lightning. This is a huge feeder band, and any portion of this line could produce a brief spin-up. That could include portions of Highlands, Hardee, DeSoto County, and now southern Polk County. You're not even in a watch Polk County right now. That will change. I do think the Weather Service is going to expand this tornado watch to include more counties in our area, maybe as high as Polk County, maybe even higher. I do expect that Pinellas, Hillsborough, Manatee, and Sarasota counties will be under a tornado watch before noon today, especially looking at the way this band has behaved down across southern portions of Florida, and it is now shifting in our direction. It is very hard to predict how many tornadoes you'll see in any landfalling tropical systems. Some of them make landfall and produce very few tornadoes. There have been some tropical systems that produced more tornadoes and more damage from tornadoes than the actual tropical system themselves. And this interaction with land masses is what causes this brief spin up. And what you notice is that this doesn't look like a typical tornado setup on the radar. This particular setup was in a batch of light to moderate rain that basically flared up. You had a little spin up there, a little friction near the ground, and then we got that brief tornado warning here just north of Fort Meade, south of Bartow, in Polk County, current tornado warning. No warnings down towards the south, just heavy rain falling out of these storms. Let's take you back to Polk County. We're going to get some new radar data here soon, so I want to make sure that you are updated along with me. Looking at this image, it's almost impossible to find the location that I would be warning for. So we're going to use our scope tool and take a look at inside the storm, scanning it inside. And what we're looking at is wind. The darker the green here, the stronger the wind. We're looking for dark and light close to each other. If there was that area of concern, it's going to be towards the lower, the southern part of this box down here in the southwest corner. That's going to be Fort Meade and the west side of Fort Meade. The whole cell was sinking south or east, southwest, west, southwest. So it's actually headed towards the bottom portion of this box, should pass well south of Mulberry, well north of Bowling Green, mainly headed toward the southwestern corner of Polk County. The tornado warning does not extend into the southwestern corner of Polk County. It basically just goes just past Fort Meade. That's Florida Highway 37 to the west. The area of concern for me right now down here. West side of Fort Meade, you got to stay in your safe place for me for another 15 or 20 minutes. That could continue into the other portions here of Polk County down towards the south and east. Let's do another storm track, see exactly where this thing is going. So we're going to find that new position down here. Let's expand it. This is 30 minutes worth of motion. It's moving at about 30 miles an hour. So the Bayard community, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, 824 possible arrival time there in southeastern Polk County, though you are not under this warning. That just extends until 8:30. I would expect if the Weather Service is still concerned about this, they would expand this warning relatively soon, probably in the next 5 to 10 minutes, as the area where they are warning for is almost out of the actual tornado warning box. So everyone to the west, to the east of Highway 17 headed out towards central Polk County along 98. I think you're past the worst part of this one. It's areas to the west of Highway 17, Fort Meade, down towards the west and southwest, the Bayard area coming up 824. If this storm holds together and we continue to see areas of rotation, that would be the region that I would be most concerned about. Let's do a little scan of that red area to go real wide here on our scope tool. There's Fort Meade. That's Florida Highway 37. You're looking at western portions of Polk County, and this is the region right here. See that darker green? It doesn't look very impressive on radar, I got to tell you. From previous cells that we've seen in this storm, this one's rather weak. There may be a brief spin up. It may have already happened, and we just got that warning just in case. But right now, the Weather Service, Jason, you finding anything? They indicating anything about the storm?
Nothing that you're not seeing. I'm not seeing anything that's a definitive rotation. Like you said, it had that spin initially over towards Pembroke and the Homeland area, but it's, like you said, also almost moving out of the tornado warning box. The warning goes till 8:30, and it looks like it was just canceled.
I did just cancel that. Yep. I just saw that on our weather system. So, guys, the tornado warning, we're going to do this all day today. And we're going to do this tomorrow, too. This is how this is going to go. This was an 11-minute tornado warning, and it's now gone. So the threat of the tornado, just we were looking at radar, didn't look very impressive. It was super quick. It's now gone. So it's over. Tornado warning is now done. No more tornado threat in Polk County. We are out of that. But we are still watching this incredibly intense band of rain. Now, what's moving into your area, Polk County, yes, the isolated tornado warning is a concern. I'm really more concerned about the rain this band is producing. Let's sample some of the rain here in this storm and show you exactly how much is falling per hour, how much the radar is estimating. But we are going to find some places here that are producing 1 to 2 inches of rain per hour. And this is all shifting into Polk County, Northern Highlands, Hardy, DeSoto, and it's making its way into portions of Manatee and Sarasota County, too. So 75 north, this is about to get some blinding rain. We've had our reporters near the coast. They're going to get hit by a heavier band of rain as this one extends all the way off the Atlantic. So this is tropical moisture. The rotation around Irma is picking up this huge band of rain and shifting it into our area. So once again, we did have a tornado warning earlier. That is now canceled. It lasted 11 minutes. Quick spin up in Polk County. No more tornado threat in our area immediately. Remember, parts of the area are under a tornado watch until noon today. So that's very important, until noon today. I'll pull that up here for you on our weather computer so you can see it. It was through for DeSoto and Highlands County. everyone in Florida eventually in the peninsula is going to be under a tornado watch at some point today. It's just a matter of time. As these bands shift northward, it's just something that we expect with landfalling tropical systems, and Irma is no different. We're going to see isolated tornadoes. We've seen probably a half dozen tornado warnings in South Florida already today. I expect additional ones to be issued later on in the afternoon. North-northwest, maybe it's moving. I'm looking at the positions from the Hurricane Center on the eye. It's kind of wobbling east and west. It took a little wobble to the east. It's a Cat 4, 130-mile-an-hour winds, and there is the eye. That right there, those are the keys. That's Cudjoe Key. It is now in the eye of the storm. So folks in the middle keys are now in calm winds and what could be clear skies. The eye wall is between Marathon and Cudjoe Key. We have reports of strong winds now in Key West. Let's actually click on some of these reports and show you what we've got from the Weather Service. So they've got winds of 89 miles an hour, at least reported in some of these rain bands. And that's going to continue as the eye wall of Irma continues to move through the Keys. We're going to continue to see these strong gusts on the east side of the eye out towards Marathon. I haven't seen a report out of Marathon in a long time. They could have already lost power there in Monroe County. We're likely going to see much stronger winds, and that's where they're probably going to see a larger surge, which was expected to be pretty high down in the Keys, in excess of 10 feet in some places as Irma continues to head north through the Keys. Lightning and thunder here as well. Additional heavy rain bands now moving up towards Key Largo as the upper Keys are affected too. This is something we may see in our area as well later on today. Along the eye wall, the Weather Service is coordinating their efforts with the National Hurricane Center and issuing extreme wind warnings for areas where the eye wall is moving through. These are areas that will be most impacted by wind, and that's something that could travel up from southwest Florida. Looks like we have no more tornado warnings in the Miami area. That tornado warning had expired. Jupiter has cleared out too. It's just this rain band that was producing that brief tornado warning. You see how quickly it appeared and disappeared in Polk County? Matter of minutes here, and this is something we'll just have to be watching on radar throughout the afternoon. Light to moderate rain now, Waimama, Bradenton, down towards Sarasota. The Venice area south, Northport and Port Charlotte. This is blinding rain now on Titan Doppler radar. Heavy tropical downpours. Arcadia, you're getting it. Wauchula, you're getting it. North of Lake Placid towards Sebring and Avon Park, very heavy rain. And in southern Polk County, from east to west, you're covered by those heavy rains. The rain is now solidifying in Tampa. Looking at the radar now, I think we're in it. I think this rain now is just going to continue solid until Irma moves by. So this is now going to be a solid rain situation for everyone from Pasco County south until the end of the storm. It is solidifying here. Citrus County still dry. Portions of Hernando County kind of mixed. You too are going to transition towards solid rain as well. Down towards the south, Fort Myers, the rain is lighter as this one band moves out. A new one from Bonita Springs heading up 75. That's going to be up in Fort Myers in the next hour. There are wind gusts right now in the Keys to near 100 miles an hour. The reporting station is out. Probably lost power in Key West right now as the eye wall's moving through. Latest wind gust at the airport in Miami, 70 miles an hour. I suspect at the beach, this one's inland, it's probably gusting to hurricane force. Pompano up to West Palm, tropical storm force wind gusts this morning. Our power outage index has improved since yesterday, but is still showing the chance for significant outages down across Highlands, Hardy, DeSoto, Manatee, and Sarasota counties, portions of Polk County too. Remember, the amount of power outages that we'll really see in any one community is going to be highly dependent on the track of the center of Irma. Overall, we're expecting the hurricane force winds in the red to start to move through the area by this evening. In Sarasota County, 7:30 this evening, you're already seeing hurricane force winds. In the yellow here, those are your tropical storm force winds. Those are going to extend well beyond the state. It's really the winds in the red that we're most concerned about. That's where they're gusting over 70. If you're in the yellow, that's tree branches down, that type of deal, maybe a larger tree branch if they gust up to 70. But it's in the red here that we could really see some of those stronger gusts, maybe 85 to 90 miles an hour. And really just near the center, to get the strongest winds. Even when Irma is here, somewhere near the Bay Area, and if they still have it classified as a Cat 3, those strong Cat 3 winds are probably within 5 to 10 miles of the eye, east and north, and that's it. If you're anywhere outside of that, you're not going to see major wind damage. It's just going to be rain, it's going to be wind with occasional stronger gusts. By 6 a.m., the hurricane winds have shifted north of Tampa, so Tampa, our worst weather. Timing here hasn't changed. 8 p.m. tonight to 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Everything then lifts north. Even Tallahassee, up towards Monticello, over towards Taylor County, they could be seeing hurricane sustained force winds as Irma could make an additional landfall back towards the north and northwest. Highest probability of those sustained hurricane winds now hugging the coast. That's been a slight adjustment to the west since yesterday when we last looked at that map. We switched over to higher resolution model data now that we're closer to the landfall of Irma. So you're going to see more detail in these rainfall reports and in these wind gusts, which are going to be strong. 87-mile-an-hour wind gusts possible by 4 o'clock this afternoon in Sebring, well above 50 miles an hour from Tampa up to Brooksville, up into Citrus County. 7:15, look at these gusts. Zolfo Springs, Arcadia, Mayaca, Sarasota, Bradenton, 90, 100 miles an hour plus possible. These are not sustained winds. Your wind is never going to be at this strength for a long period of time. It's going to be a gust, and it'll calm down. At times, unless the rain is able to push that wind to the ground, you may even see the winds lighten up quite a bit, even though you're in that hurricane wind field. By 7:15, Tampa starts to see the winds on the increase. St. Pete, Clearwater, those are when we'll see some of the heavier gusts here about 10:30 to midnight, winds gusting 85, 90 miles an hour. And then look at the colors here. These dark reds, torrential rain. We're talking about rain at 2 or more inches per hour with those strong winds. Certainly late this evening into the very early mornings of Monday look to be the stormiest in our area. Wind offshore while this is all happening, so along the Gulf Coast, the surge is not going to be an issue at this time. The only places that could see an increase in water levels, eastern-facing coastline of Pinellas County, looking back towards the bay, and in South Tampa, looking east towards the harbor and towards the port. Those areas along Bayshore down to McDale, you're going to see an onshore flow, higher surf. You're going to see some of that water splash over the guardrail there. Some minor flooding along South Tampa there, Bayshore, certainly very possible. Then watch the winds down to the south. At 2:15 in the morning, the winds turn onshore in Sarasota as the eye of Irma is located somewhere in the Bay Area. That reversal in wind from Gulf to inland will start to push the waters in. So the wind threat comes first. Lighter winds behind the eye, still strong up to hurricane force, but in an opposite direction. And it's that onshore flow that will cause surge issues from south to north tomorrow morning. Starting maybe at 2 a.m. down south, spreading north through the day on Monday until eventually by mid-morning the winds start to die down and the heaviest rains move to the north. Monday evening we're fine, just breezy, a couple of scattered showers, and then drier weather moving in as we head into the day on Tuesday. I'd like to see that, guys. Wind speeds down to 8 miles an hour in Brandon by Tuesday with drier air moving in place too. We'll continue to watch it for you. Have another update in a few minutes.
All right, thank you, Greg. And now is the time to remind you that if you haven't already done so, make sure you download our Storm Shield app. This weather app will alert you of any dangerous weather conditions near you. You just saw Greg talking about that tornado warning that lasted for all of 11 minutes, but 11 very scary, very nerve-wracking minutes in Polk County. It's now expired. But make sure that you download that so that if anything happens, it will alert you to get to a safe area and let you know what's going on. Meanwhile, Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd just gave an update on conditions there just minutes ago.
Right, and we want to go to ABC Action News reporter Andrea Lyon, who joins us now live with what his message was to everybody in the area. Andrea.
Well, his message was, and we might have heard this before, that this is the real deal, and you can probably tell that by the rains that are already coming in right now. Some interesting notes, though, from Grady Judd. He tells us that deputies have actually doubled up in Polk County today, making rounds to different homeless camps around the county to encourage them to seek shelter, and some of them are taking him up on his offer, like he said this week. Sheriff Judd also tells us that sex offenders are taking him up on his offer to seek shelter inside the county jail. He says that 36 convicted predators are now inside the county jail, not with the general population of those who are actually in incarceration, but they are seeking shelter within that jail because, again, they're not allowed in regular shelters. As for shelters in our area, right now there's still plenty of space. There are 19 shelters still wide open. 2 are, though, at capacity. Those include Spook Hill Elementary in Lake Wales, as well as McKeel Academy in Lakeland. This is the time for last-minute preparations, Judd says. The sheriff advises those preparations need to be done pretty soon and prepare as if the eye is coming right to you. And when it's over, he says, be prepared to clean up and clean up very quickly so people can help you.
But when the storm comes, it does its thing. And then it's how we recover. And let me tell you how we recover best, when we operate as a community. Once the storm has passed and it's safe to go outside, we want you to do something. The very first thing is get with your neighbors, get out your chainsaws, and start clearing your local roads. Because the thing we need first is ingress and egress for emergency vehicles and equipment that's going to come help you.
Now, you might have noticed since the last time we talked, this room behind me is now full of EOC staff members. They are now in full activation and will be monitoring Hurricane Irma minute by minute to give you updates throughout the day. Live in Polk County, Andrea Lyon, ABC Action News.
Andrea, we have just learned that Governor Rick Scott will be speaking and giving an update at noon. We will be here. We are in continuous coverage. We're not going anywhere. We're with you through this. When we will go live to the governor at noon. More to come on that.
Meanwhile, our continuing team coverage of Hurricane Irma with a look at conditions in Manatee County. The weather there, the conditions there really beginning to deteriorate.
Let's go to ABC Action News anchor Lauren St. Germain, who joins us now live outside the Manatee County Emergency Operations Center. Lauren, how are things?
Guys, we've been out here pretty much since Greg D started talking about that tornado warning, and conditions have gone from a light wind to a strong wind. I'm standing this way so you can hopefully see if we get one of those wind gusts, my jacket will blow back and you can see the trees are really starting to wiggle back and forth, the branches. It's also starting to rain here. We're here at the EOC because they're going to give us an update at 9:30 this morning. Everything to do with Manatee County, including shelters and the conditions. And see here, you're starting to see my jacket getting blown back. There are still openings at Manatee County shelters. We actually just saw this tweet that the 2 shelters with the most openings, Williams Elementary and Witt Elementary. Both of those shelters will allow pets. There are also a few other shelters with less spots available. I tweeted out those shelters at Lauren WFTS. So if you're waking up this morning and deciding that you really want to get to that shelter, know in Manatee County that there are still spots available, and conditions out here are starting to get worse. You can again see my jacket. We're getting the gusts back and forth, and the rain is just kind of like pelty, annoying rain. It's not really downpouring yet. Again, 9:30, we'll be in the EOC and getting an update from emergency officials there, and we'll bring that to you. I'll stream it live on Facebook, and we'll hopefully be able to get it on air as well. For now, reporting live in Manatee County, I'm Lauren St. Germain for ABC Action News.
All right, thank you, Lauren. We are continuing to check conditions all across the Bay Area. We've been telling you that we've got crews everywhere, all throughout the Bay Area and beyond.
We have, and we have ABC Action News reporter Kumasi Aaron joining us now live from the Crown Plaza Hotel West Shore. A little backstory on this, Kumasi. People evacuated to there. It's in a mandatory evacuation zone, and now they're trying to figure out if they should just get out of Dodge and leave.
Yeah, I actually talked to one man a little while ago who told me he just wanted to stay here as long as he possibly could, and now he's headed to North Tampa. But the majority of people that we saw here in this hotel throughout the weekend are deciding to weather the storm in this hotel, knowing that this is a mandatory evacuation zone. I want to just show you what the conditions look like right now. As we've been here throughout the morning, we've seen a little more rain, a little more wind here, and of course expecting much more to come. But inside the hotel, it's quiet right now. A lot of people people when we shot this video were asleep, but you can see the preparations that the staff of this hotel has in place waiting for Irma. They have the doors taped so that people can't go outside to those outdoor areas. They have tape on the windows. They have the floodgates up because they told us they are expecting this area to flood. We're within walking distance of the bay, so they're expecting water here. They're expecting to lose power, so they're doing all that they can to get the people who have decided to ride out the storm here educated as to what is the procedure in place for when things happen. They have a meeting here at the hotel at noon. It's mandatory for everyone who's decided to stay. You have to sign a waiver. They're going over everything, like what'll happen with the elevators, what'll happen with the stairwell, where can you find flashlights if you need to get around. So that is mandatory for everyone who's decided to stay here and weather out the storm. It's a lot of people. Yesterday they had free dinner for people who were staying here, and the dining room was full. So it'll be a lot of people here at the Crown Plaza riding out Irma, and hopefully everyone will be safe. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Kamasi. Be safe out there. Meanwhile, more counties across the Bay Area are beginning to see wind and rain. Even in the Tampa Bay area, we're seeing what Greg says is now a constant, steady rainfall. He says expect these conditions, throughout. As this storm gets closer, he's not going to let up at all.
Right, they're going to persist. So what you're seeing out there now, it's not going to get any better until the storm passes. Let's check in now with ABC Action News reporter Nick Saletti, who joins us live with conditions on Bayshore Boulevard. Nick, what are you seeing out there?
Yeah, so right here, the rain is starting to fall a little harder. Those winds are picking up. This is iconic Bayshore Boulevard here in South Tampa. It's a neighborhood so many people love, and this is the reason why. These beautiful homes here. But I have to show you, a lot of them have been boarded up. You see that plywood covering the windows. A lot of these folks aren't taking any chances. They want to make sure that their homes and all of their belongings stay as safe as possible. Now, this is evacuation zone A. So this is one of the areas that now has mandatory evacuations here in Hillsborough County. So we spoke to a few people who live here, and they said they want to make sure that they get out and get to someplace safe. Now, I've lived here in Florida for 6 years now. I spent 6 years of my life here. I've been through some storms before, but nothing this intense. And I have to tell you, as someone who has lived in the state, that is what I think is different about Irma, is that people realize the potential intensity of this, and they don't want to take any chances. They want to make sure they're staying safe. And as we look here at Bayshore, sure, we are seeing some cars drive by, but for a Sunday morning, it is very quiet. This street is usually very busy with people jogging, with moms walking their babies in strollers, people walking their dogs. Looks like we see some police up here, too. We've seen a few people jogging and running this morning, but again, for the most part, this has been very quiet. Quite a drastic change from what a typical Sunday is like. We're going to cross the street in just a second. I want to let this car pass by. As I mentioned earlier, though, the winds are picking up, the rain getting a little bit harder right now. Thankfully, these folks have their headlights on. They have their wipers going to make sure that they stay safe and do everything that they can to be safe on the roads. As we've said before, if you don't have to be out here, it's a good thing to just stay at home if you can. We're looking at the palm trees, too, starting to see those wave a little bit. I want to show you this, too. Speaking of palm trees, I saw this when I was walking one of these palm fronds here. I mean, this is very minor damage here. This could happen in a thunderstorm situation or something like that. But people know that this is the least of their worries right now, that the potential for damage with Hurricane Irma here in Tampa could be very serious. As we walk along the water here, very, very quiet. As we look here, I mean, this is why people live here. This is why people come here, because of this beautiful water view. But people know that this water could potentially be dangerous, even deadly, with that storm surge possibility. So thankfully, a lot of these folks evacuating, going to safer places just to make sure that they are out of harm's way. But we will continue to stay here in South Tampa off of Bayshore to monitor the conditions for everybody. And hopefully everybody just stays safe. But even behind me right now, we see a few people running and walking. So a few stragglers out here trying to see. Let's, if we can, I don't know how much time we have. I'm going to see if maybe we can talk to a few people. As I mentioned, we have seen a few people running, walking. I'm sorry to bug you. Can I talk to you real quick? Hi, Nick from ABC Action News. Sorry to bug you. Can I ask you, do you live around this area?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is your family planning to evacuate?
I live in Land O'Lakes, so we're not from Tampa.
Yeah, because this is evacuation zone A. So are you aware that there are mandatory evacuation orders in place?
Sir.
Okay.
Are you and your family going to head to a safer place soon?
I don't know. They are talking about it, so we haven't really made a...
I apologize to put you on the spot here, too. Do you guys have a plan in place even for your home? Because as we've covered extensively throughout the morning and all day yesterday, the entire state is going to feel the impacts of this. So what kind of plans do you guys have in place?
I think we might go up north, like to Alabama or Georgia or something like that, to try to get away.
Well, because with evacuations and everything, and this is something that we have pointed out at ABC Action News, with evacuating, sometimes just heading a little bit inland is going to help instead of having to drive counties and states away. So we want you to be safe, okay? I don't want you to get wet out here, too, as you're driving. So go back with your family. We want you to be safe. Tell them we wish them well and everything, okay? Yes, please stay safe, okay? All right, so you see here, people still out here. We're hopefully that they do have a plan in place, but we'll be out here live to monitor the conditions for you. But as you see, some people still hanging around a little bit longer. We're live here this morning here in South Tampa. Nick Saletti, ABC Action News.
Thanks, Nick. That girl's family's probably thinking, no, he had to stop you.
He just had to.
Exactly. We're glad they're safe, though. You know that area on Bayshore, it floods when we just have regular thunderstorms.
Everybody
so
says
we're waiting
that,
to
too.
see exactly what's going to happen with this storm there. So hopefully everybody there is staying safe.
We're seeing a common theme, though, and it's good in these evacuation zone A's. It's very, very, very deserted. And that's what you want to see.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, again, it's a Sunday morning. These are places people are out congregating. If there's people watching this feed right now, watching us from outside of the Tampa Bay area, these are areas that are always populated and always busy during Saturday and Sunday mornings, and they're not, and that's what we want to see.
The one thing I noticed, too, we're seeing conditions that are getting worse throughout the Tampa Bay area, but it's still pretty clear right now in that area. Of course, that's going to change over the next, couple of hours or so, maybe the next hour or so, but it looks pretty clear right now, just a little bit of light rainfall out there. But again, as we've been telling you, conditions are going to get worse very quickly. So make your plans, do what you're going to do, go where you're going to go, and make sure that you get there safely before noon today.
They're going to get worse, not better from this point on. Okay, let's go to Port Charlotte. They're seeing some heavy downpours and wind right now.
Yeah, Michael Paluska is out there. Michael, how are conditions where you are?
Hey, Dee and James, all morning we've been waiting for the rains to come in, at least some winds, and it really didn't start until maybe 30, 45 minutes ago. And we're just driving through Port Charlotte area. I'll show you a lot of ponding on the roads. You can see the right side of the camera. Just a lot of water was dumped in a short period of time because we only had one really big storm overnight that kind of woke us up, and we realized, okay, this is maybe one of these bands coming in, but it wasn't that intense until maybe this morning. So Port Charlotte, we just saw a lot of EMS and Charlotte County Sheriff's Office deputies coming around. There was a mandatory curfew until about 6 a.m. this morning, and now we are seeing more and more people out on the roads, at least just driving around. I don't know if they're just wanting to scout the area out or if they're heading to somebody else's house or what they're doing, but we've seen more people on the roads today, and we've also seen power trucks, and we're seeing reports on social media from emergency managers here that they're mobilizing the power trucks and putting them in safe places right now to be able to get out into the areas that will be hardest hit and be without power. That's so important to get the power back. So that's a good sign that those trucks are moving because they probably have a pretty good plan in place. At least we hope so. So not everybody loses their chicken or their steak that's in their freezer right now that they bought 2 weeks ago before the storm came through. So I think what we're going to expect here, and we're not always going to be driving around in the car, we sort of just want to scout the area, but I think what we can expect in the next couple of hours is even heavier bands coming in. If we start seeing those bands similar to what we're seeing online in West Palm, Fort Lauderdale area, Miami, we're going to get hit pretty hard here in the next couple of hours. And of course, we'll be here to bring it to you guys because whatever we get here is what's going to creep up the coast, Sarasota, going to Manatee, head up through Pinellas Peninsula, and then into Hillsborough. So whatever we get here won't be as intense in Tampa, but it could be depending on the track, of course. But we'll be the first ones here to tell you about what's going on. And we are in Port Charlotte trying to dodge water. You just missed that one, but the guy just threw a lot of water on our car. So we'll send it back to you guys in the studio. Dia, James.
All right, thank you, Michael. Really highlights the dangerous conditions out there. You could hydroplane very easily. A lot of ponding on the roads if it's not already raining out there.
Well, speaking of dangerous conditions, here's a live look at Key West. This is the southernmost beach resort, and right now they are taking on gusts in excess of, what are we talking, Jason?
84 miles an hour was the last one we had, and then we had a 94 mile an hour gust before we think the either Observation
power
failed or they lost power. So up to 94 miles per hour were the strongest wind so far.
In the eye of the storm, when Greg was saying it went over Cudjoe Key, is that right, Jason?
Just to the east, literally about 15 miles east of Key West. And I just saw some video on Twitter. About 2 feet of water in downtown Key West right now from storm surge. That could be either storm surge or flooding rainfall out there. So yeah, definitely taking the brunt of Hurricane Irma right now, the Florida Keys and the extreme southern tip of South Florida before you hop off and head into the Keys. You can see the eye trying to become a little more clear. Greg was talking about this a second ago, how it filled in with clouds. That typically is a signal that it's kind of not as organized as it was, but now the eye is looking like it's clearing out again. So we could potentially see this at least maintaining its strength. As we expect strengthening, I think hopefully, now I could be wrong, but hopefully this is maxed out with its strengthening because we're actually seeing the pressure leveling off at around 929 millibars. If it was falling, that would be indicative of strengthening. And as it moves closer and closer to the southwest Florida coast, it's running out of time to actually strengthen a little bit. And some of you asking on Twitter, what do we think it will do? Well, guess what? If it continues to stay on this more northerly track, it's going to go into Fort Myers and Naples, Port Charlotte area here within the next 4 hours. And then, of course, with it being inland or on the coast now, strengthening is not going to happen. If it moves a little bit more out off the coast, which we do not suspect will happen now, then we could see potentially a little bit of strengthening at that point. So that's what we're looking at now with the forecast. The forecast track has not changed from the Hurricane Center. Still expecting Category 3 winds here. As we go towards tonight, it looks like the hurricane force winds south of the bay will start to pick up after 2 o'clock. In the Bay Area at around 4 to 6 o'clock, especially after 8 p.m. And then north of the Bay Area, closer to midnight, you'll start to see some of your hurricane force winds moving in, as unfortunately this track continues to be basically right overhead. So here's a look at the wind forecast. Notice as we go from 7, 9 o'clock, we jump from tropical storm force sustained winds to hurricane force winds here in Tampa. Check it out inland and Lakeland, up to 78 mile per hour sustained winds as we go towards 9 p.m. So hurricane force winds expected in your area by that point. Tropical storm force winds expected to pick up here around 11 o'clock to noon in the St. Petersburg area, but the strongest winds tropical storm force wise will move in from 3 to 6, and then hurricane force winds sustained up to around 93 miles per hour expected as we get towards 9 o'clock. Bradenton, kind of the same deal, up to around 91 mile per hour sustained winds moving in by 9 p.m. And one last stop, the Sarasota wind forecast shows tropical storm force winds by 1, quickly jumping up to hurricane force winds from 3 to 6. And then certainly from 6 to 9, looking at the strongest winds, could see 100+ mile per hour wind gusts here. Unfortunately, it looks like for the bulk of the area. So there's where the current position is. And again, 130 mile per hour winds, a little bit closer inspection of some of the heavier rainfall that's now moving into Polk County and also through Hillsborough County. We'll likely start to see a lot of that heavier rainfall moving in and sticking around, and where it's the heaviest, that's where we're looking at Wauchula over to Sebring. This area of red that's rotating around Irma is heading over towards the Bradenton area eventually, and we're already looking at some of that heavier rainfall now moving back into Tampa. So over towards the coast, we've got the heaviest rainfall now showing up north of Port Charlotte through Venice, also into Sarasota. We'll also be watching the radar very closely for you, myself and Greg D, as we could see potentially some tornadoes spinning up within these heavier rain bands. And also as these bands pass by, they'll pull down some of the stronger winds aloft, so we could see tropical storm force gusts even ahead of the sustained tropical storm force winds with any of these squalls that move through. And again, through downtown Tampa, eventually heading over to Pinellas County, starting to see more moderate rain moving in. It's been light this morning, but the yellow, the red indicates heaviest rainfall, all shifting from east to west around the circulation center, which is currently staying down to our south. And our northern communities, light rain for the most part now, but you'll start to see some of those darker greens and yellows indicating the heavier rainfall, eventually moving up towards Citrus County. And we're already seeing the rain now in Hernando and Pasco County. So there's a look at the radar. So hurricane force winds again, most widespread after 4 o'clock this afternoon, especially south of the bay, after 6 o'clock in and around the bay, and then after 8 o'clock north of the bay. And this will continue to be the case through at least 6 a.m. tomorrow. Winds will decrease from south to north in intensity as we go overnight tonight and into tomorrow. But unfortunately, as the storm moves north tomorrow morning, then we're going to get onshore winds moving back in, tropical storm and hurricane force winds. At the same time, we have our high tide, which could lead to some storm surge issues setting up for us as we go into tomorrow morning. Also, we're looking at the flash flood watch. Don't forget that. That's an important part of this story as well, as we see a widespread 5, 10, perhaps 15 inches of rainfall as we're watching Irma's bringing the rain now. And it will continue to do so even as we go into Monday afternoon. As it's pulling away, we'll continue to see the threat for some of those heavier rainfall squalls, and that could give us rainfall totals again on the order of 5 to 15 inches, with a few isolated spots even higher than that if we get some of those bands to set up in the same places over and over again. So that's a look at what we're expecting right now. Again, the strongest winds, they'll be moving in as we go into the afternoon hours. Right now, 25, 30 mile per hour winds, but already by 2, 3 o'clock, 40 to 55 mile per hour winds. And then notice as we get towards 4, 5, 6, 7 o'clock, 70 mile per hour winds. And then there we go, 85 to 95, even 100 mile per hour winds moving in, unfortunately, overnight tonight. And guys, that's when we're likely expecting the majority of our power outages. So it's going to be a little scary out there overnight tonight because it's dark, we'll lose power, and that's when the strongest part of the storm is going to be heading in.
Yeah, and I think that's the worst part, is that this storm is going to hit at night, you know, when in the middle of the night when a lot of us are sleeping. So if you can, keep a flashlight near your bedside. Make sure that it has batteries. Make sure that you charge up your cell phones, you know, so that you can grab them. Even the cell phones a lot of times will provide some light if you don't have a flashlight, but make sure that you're prepared in the event that you lose power overnight.
No question. Let's get to Sarasota now. They are getting some wind and rain right now. Pretty serious.
We want to go to ABC Action News reporter Wendy Lane for an update on the conditions there. Wendy, we can see that they've really changed since the last time we checked in with you.
That's right, guys. So we've been having kind of that steady drizzle all morning long. That's happened since we've been out here reporting since about probably 12:30 or 1 o'clock this morning. Now, just about, I would say probably 10 minutes ago, this rain started, and it is coming down, and it's only getting more and more intense. And the winds are picking up as well. If you can see these palm trees, they're blowing in the wind. Now, we are right before the bridge to get to Siesta Key. That bridge, again, we mentioned before, is closed off only to residents who are here. They have deputies and police that are flagging people down. They have to check their ID. If they have an ID saying that they live in Siesta Key, then they can go across. But nobody can come that doesn't live there. That's like, say, you know, someone who just wants to go see what the storm's doing, or someone who's not from there, because it's dangerous over there. Siesta Key is in a mandatory evacuation zone, and we're starting to really see what this storm could possibly bring with it, because we're just getting, you know, the very, very tip of this storm right now, just some effects of it. And you can see these palm fronds that are all over the ground. I mean, we're seeing this everywhere we're going now, and then this intense rain that just started. So people actually in Siesta Key were saying that they have seen the tide that is about 3 inches higher right now than it normally is for what it's supposed to be. So they think that that might be a little bit of that surge that's coming in. Again, here in Sarasota, they're expected to get 6 to 10 inches of storm surge. And you can see these gusts. I've been talking about them all morning long. They kind of just come and go, but we kind of have had now this current kind of just steady wind, because before it was calm and then gusts, and it just keeps getting kind of worse and worse and worse.